You know that feeling, right? It's 3 a.m., your eyes are wide open, and you're just staring at the ceiling. It is so frustrating. Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into a totally different way of thinking about sleep based on the book Mindfulness for Insomnia. It's less about fighting to fall asleep and way more about allowing it to happen.
It's the craziest thing about insomnia, isn't it? The more you try, the more you strain and force it, the more awake you feel. Your brain just seems to dig its heels in. You're telling yourself, just go to sleep, but it's like yelling at the tide to go out. It just does not work. So what is actually going on?
First things first, if this is you, you are so not alone. The numbers show that nearly a quarter of all of us have trouble with sleep, and we get stuck in what experts call a vicious cycle. You can't sleep, which makes you worry, and that worry puts your body and mind on high alert, which, you guessed it, makes it even harder to sleep. It's just this awful, exhausting loop.
Okay, this brings us to a super simple but really powerful formula that kind of changes the whole game. The pain here is the sleeplessness itself, the actual physical reality of being awake when you don't want to be. But the suffering, that comes from our resistance. It's the frustration, the anxiety, the desperate struggle against the pain. And that resistance part, that's the key we're going to unlock. To really understand this idea of resistance, we need to talk about a powerful metaphor. It's called the second arrow. The idea is actually pretty straightforward, but it's a big one. So imagine the first arrow is the bad thing that happens to you. In our case, it's waking up at 3 a.m. That's the initial sting of pain. But the second arrow, that's the one we shoot into ourselves. It's the story we spin about it, the self-blame, the panicked thoughts like, oh great, I'm going to be a complete zombie tomorrow. That second arrow is where all the real suffering comes from.
This chart just lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got the first arrow, just the physical feeling of being awake. Simple. But look at the right side. That's the second arrow. It's that voice in your head screaming, I'm going to be useless tomorrow. That's what turns a moment of wakefulness into a full-blown crisis. And here's the most important part. We might not always be able to control that first arrow, but we absolutely can learn not to fire the second one.
So the big question is, how do we stop firing that second arrow? Well, the answer is all about changing our relationship with our own minds. It's a huge shift, really, from fighting with your mind to befriending it.
And this is exactly where mindfulness comes in. Now, I know that word can sound a little intimidating, but it's not about emptying your mind or floating on a cloud. It's much simpler. It's just about paying attention to what's happening right now, your thoughts, your feelings, how your body feels, without slapping a label on it like good or bad. You're just observing the storm without letting it sweep you away. Let's geek out on the biology for just a second. Your body has these two natural systems that are always kind of in a tug of war. You've got your sleep drive, which builds up all day long, making you feel tired. And then you have your wake drive, which is trying to keep you alert and functioning. Sleep happens when that sleep drive finally overpowers the wake drive. The whole point is, you can't just bully these systems into doing what you want. You have to learn to work with them.
And that right there, that is the core idea. You have to stop trying to make yourself sleep. It's impossible. Instead, you shift your focus to creating the right conditions, both in your mind and in your environment, that allow sleep to show up on its own. It's all about letting go of that struggle.
Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But what can you actually do when you're lying there wide awake and your mind is racing? Well, let's open up the Mindful Toolkit for those tough nights. The first tool is called the self-compassion break, and it's so simple and powerful. First, you just acknowledge what's happening. Just say to yourself, wow, this is really hard right now. Second, you connect with everyone else. Remind yourself, I'm not the only person feeling this way. It breaks that feeling of being totally isolated. And finally, you just offer yourself a little bit of kindness. Say something like, may I be kind to myself in this moment? It actively shifts your body out of that high alert, fight or flight mode. Now, for a slightly deeper practice, you can use RAIN. First, R is for recognize. What are you actually feeling? Is it anxiety, frustration? Just name it. A is for allow. Let the feeling be there without trying to shove it away. Then I is for investigate. Get curious. What does this anxiety actually feel like in your body? Where is it? And finally, N is for non-identification. This is the big one. Realize that this feeling is just a weather pattern passing through your mind. It's not you. So these nighttime tools are absolutely essential. But the real magic starts to happen when you weave this way of thinking into your entire day, not just when you're in bed.
I just love this quote. It's such a powerful reframe. Mindfulness isn't some emergency trick you pull out at 2 in the morning. When you practice these little moments of awareness all day long, like really tasting your coffee instead of mindlessly scrolling, you're actually helping to calm down your whole nervous system. You're training your brain to be less reactive, which means you're way less likely to be amped up and on edge when your head finally hits the pillow.
And of course, your environment matters too. Now, this isn't about having a bunch of strict sleep hygiene rules that just make you more anxious. It's about creating a gentle, consistent signal that it's time to rest. Dim the lights, put the screens away, read a book, do some light stretching. These are all powerful cues you're sending to your brain and body that the day is over and it's safe to power down.
So, the final thought I want to leave you with is this: a completely new way to think about your goal. What if the answer isn't about finding a new strategy to finally beat insomnia? What if it's about realizing that the fight itself is the problem? And that maybe, just maybe, true rest can only begin when you finally decide to lay down your weapons and stop fighting.